Good afternoon. Welcome to this afternoon's 3B teachings. I hope you're going to enjoy it. We're talking about 3B means business, Bible, and basic living. So I just felt the need to preach or talk about the basic things in life and how applied to the Bible, and I thought one of the best ways is to start with the business. So we're doing the 10 P's of business. It is called, we're going to go through it, it's called the my 10 P's. I took some of the P's out of the normal marketing material and business material, which is price, place, people, processes, product, and promotion. I've added planning, planting, principles, and prayer. Last week we spoke about principles. You must have various. Before you start a business, you must decide what principles you must evaluate. And so these are the principles that I will build my business on. You can call it values. You can call it, basically the principles I spoke about was that you must separate your business from yourself. In other words, you take a salary and the other money stay in the business. If you make a loan out of the business, you must take it back. We also said you must be disciplined in running your business. I also said you must undertake to at least educate yourself in understanding financial principles in your business. You must pray for your business. You must treat people fairly in your business. You must treat people like how you want to be treated. And also that you will always plant a seed. Whatever you make in your business, you will always plant another seed. You will take your first fruits, or every month you will take something and bless a church, an organization, or orphanage. And then also you must be a person of integrity. A scripture that we read was that integrity will guide a person. Integrity of the upright will guide them, we said. And tonight we're speaking about planning. Our second P, we're going to do planning. And I'm just going to speak to you in Luke 14 verse 28. This is planning your business. Remember, we're doing the 10 P's of business. What I want you to do as we go through it, you must evaluate your business and say, if you're a new business or existing business, you write down the first P last week was principles. You give yourself out of 10, how do you think you're doing with principles? You give yourself example, you give yourself 5 out of 10, then you'll put action plans, how you will get to a 10. Tonight we're doing planning. You give yourself a rating again. If your rating is 8, it's good. Then you say, how can I get to a 10? I must just do that and that. And that's how we're going to practically apply what I'm saying. So tonight we're doing planning. Luke 14:28 says, for which of you wishing to build a house does not first sit down and calculate the costs, whether he has sufficient means to finish it? Then we do Proverbs 19:21. We're going to Proverbs 19:21. Busy talking about planning. Many plans are in a man's mind, but it is the Lord who purposes for him that will stand. So I've read 2 scriptures. The one says that any man, Jesus said, if you want to build a house, you must first plan before you and calculate what is the cost. Here in Proverbs 19:21, it says here that many plans are in a man's mind, but it's the Lord who purposed. So it's two scriptures that actually complement. The one says you must have a plan. The other one says, although you have a plan, still trust in God to fulfill that plan. So the one cannot do what the other one. The one says, many has the plans, but it's the Lord who makes it stand. The other one says, plan first. If you look at the scriptures together, it actually complements each other by saying, the one says, do plan, and the other one says, although you plan, well, but still trust God because He's the one who will make it happen. So there's a few statements I want to make. It says a goal without the plan is just a wish. And it's so true. You can have what goal? If you don't put a plan in action how to achieve that goal will stay a wish. You will talk about it, you will think about it, but you must put a plan in action. It also says an hour of planning can save you 10 hours of doing, which is so true. How many times you just do stuff and you run around, we plan parties, we think it's easy, we don't, a simple thing like a party, we think, it's easy, it's just going to be a bride, and at the last moment, you forget this, you forget there's the chairs, where's the cups, where's the plates, where's the music. You start to run around and people come there and you start late because you did not plan. So planning is very, very important in your business. Don't take it for granted. Many of us, let's just come practically to our business now. Many of us, we start a business, we think, let's use it, we want to sell, we want to do a retail business. We just want to sell normal consumables and perishables to customers. In our mind, it is very easy. Yes, it's just getting a place and just getting the place nice. We don't plan our cash flow. We don't plan a long-term relationship with customers, with creditors. We don't plan all these things, and we think it's so easy, and we think everybody will just come and buy from us. They will come. You assume things, and you put no planning. And many small businesses, the first 3 months, they close down because they didn't plan properly. It's not the only reason, but it's a big attribute, a big reason why many small businesses fail. Now, when you start your business, like I said, it's very important, as small as it be, you must plan for that business. So let's just use an example. The first thing that you must do, you must plan your basic business plan in terms of revenue, cost, and expenses. Like I said, I'm going to use these three terms a lot so that we can get you. You must plan for your revenue for the next 3 years. How are you going to get your sales targets? You must plan for your cost of sale, in other words, your material costs, or if you're a retailer, you buy and you sell, you must plan where you're going to get the best prices. You must plan for your expenses. In other words, am I going to take my salary? In other words, a lot of small businesses that they start, they don't take into account their living expenses that they must live off. If you don't have a bank account that you don't need to take from the business, and you're dependent on this business must supply your daily needs, it must supply your family, you have to plan to put that expenses in your business. Because like I said last week, if you don't do that, you're going to use all the money of the business and you're going to use it for your household, and you're not going to have money for the next business. So it's important that you plan what we call your cash flow. How is your cash flow going to look like for the next year? What I mean by cash flow is different from net profit, and I'll get to that when I speak about finance or pricing or whatever. Net profit takes your revenue in account, how much sales you're going to make. It's going to take your material cost in account, and then it's going to take your expenses in account. Now, net profit doesn't necessarily mean all the time that it is cash related. In other words, your expenses, or if you put that your creditors that you bought breads for 1,000 rand. Say you sell breads. You bought the breads for 1,000 rand and you're selling it for 2,000 rand. You're making 1,000 rand. Your expenses is 500. You're left with a 500 net profit. Now, net profit doesn't necessarily mean that's the money for that month you give out. It just gives you an indication of how profitable your business is. The reason why I said you might buy the bread on credit and you're not going to give out that cash. That cash is only going to be for next month, but you still have that cash for that month. Now, the difference here is why I want to say that is when you start your business, you have to plan a proper cash flow. In other words, how much cash you're going to have available to run your business. So in other words, you plan for what your how's your revenue going to look like? What's your material cost going to look like? What's your expenses? And as I said, very important, don't underestimate or don't underquote your expenses. Don't, because you want to believe yourself that the business is going to work now. You don't put in cell phone allowance, you don't put in petrol allowance, you don't put your salary in there, you don't put UIF, you have to put it down and everything down so that you can see exactly every month where you're going to end with your cash. Therefore, it's not just by deciding I'm going to open a plumbing business. You have to understand what is your revenue going to be, what's going to be your material costs, what your expenses going to be, and then every month you add it up and you see how much cash do you need every month to run your business. It's important. So I'll make more sense of it when I'm going to speak about finances, and I'm even going to give you presentations about it. But for now, just trust me. Do not underestimate the planning of your financial projection for your business. I've seen so many businesses. They put the most conservative figures down to believe that their business is going to work, and they're not truthful and honest to say, this is all my expenses. Put everything down. Plan for it. And if you need to go make a loan and have your own money to make sure that you're not going to run in trouble with your business for the first 6 months or the first year, rather go make a loan. And then when you run in negative cash flow, then it's not a negative because you have planned for it. So it's important that we plan our financial situation in advance and not just assume that everybody's going to come to us and we'll make profits. As I said, when we come to finances, I'm going to speak more about the second thing that you have to plan for, which is very important. How are you going to get customers? How are you going to retain customers? How are you going to get new customers? And you have to have a marketing plan in place and say, okay, my first, I'm going to give easy examples. You say, I'm going to plan to advertise on Facebook, not just Facebook. I'm going to pay for an ad on Facebook. I'm going to put an ad in a newspaper. I'm going to make flyers. I'm going to ask my family to do word of mouth. I'm going to put it on WhatsApp. And you set targets for yourself. You think you're going to get so many customers that month. More or less, at least have a plan of how are you going to get retain your existing customers, and how are you going to get new customers. So the first thing is plan your financial situation, your cash flow, your net profit. set it out that you can see on paper what is going to happen. If you stay with me through the series, I'm gonna help you with that. The second thing, you have to have a plan of how you're gonna get customers, how you're gonna maintain your customers, and how you're continually gonna acquire new customers. A marketing plan, be aggressive about it. Put some money in. Even when you plan for your financial, put there a budget for marketing. When you're a new business, you have to have a market if you were a new business, you have to have a budget for marketing. Very few businesses, you get businesses that just by luck, it just booms. It's just when you have a tender, that's good. After the tender, you must plan what's going to happen after the tender. But most of us, when we start the traditional style of there's no tender, we're going to go out to customers, we're going to look for jobs, we're going to advertise. It's important that you plan for these things. As I said, sometimes we get a good tender and God has blessed us with it. We must still plan for what's going to happen after the tender. We must still plan for how we're going to manage our cash flow. So it's very important. Then what you also have to do, put a plan in place, how you're going to put God in your business. Very important. Put a plan that, like in our business, every Monday morning, we come together to pray. I pray every day at 9 o'clock with one of the workers, an intercessor. We have once a month a service at our work, and there's nothing obligatory. It's not compulsory. We plan to give to the Lord every month. We've planned to have once a month a half night of prayer at our work. We've put a plan in place to make sure that God is in our midst. Then you must put also a plan in place to make sure that every process in your business, whether it's how you're going to purchase a material, how you're going to deal with HR, how you're going to deal with procurement, how you're going to deal with customers, how you're going to deal with production, how you're going to deal with transport. You have to plan and put processes, even if it's a half a page or a page. Start off by having processes in place for every function or division in your company. Write a one-pager how you see it must run. It doesn't need to be a complicated thing. I don't believe in complicated, but you must at least have an idea. HR matters, I'm going to deal with the procurement. We're going to deal with it like this. Sales, we're going to deal with it like this. Disciplinary, we're going to deal with it like this. And you put those plans. So the 4 things that I encourage you before you start your business, you have to have a plan of a financial situation that you can see over a year. How are your net profit going to look like? How your cash flow is going to look like? And as I said, I will come when we get to those parts. I will teach you if you don't know how to do that. The second thing is, and very important in that, when you plan for your financials for the year, if you're dependent on the business, you have to put in a salary for yourself in that business. And then what you have to do, if you look at your expenses is 10,000 rand, maybe you give yourself, maybe it's 20,000, you give yourself 10,000 rand a month. Your rent will be 4,000 rand a month. Your cell phone will be 2,000, and say your expenses is 20,000, right? You then have to say, okay, to get 20,000, I must make 40,000 rand, because 20,000 is going to be for my material. Of the 40,000 that I'm going to make, 20,000 will be for my material, and 20,000 will be for my expenses, and I'll break even. Now, if your expenses is 20,000, right? 20,000. And your material cost is 20,000. You need to take your material cost of 20,000 and say, the only way for me to break even is I have to put 100% markup on my material cost. So 20,000 you use for material costs. You put 100% markup on that, you get to 40,000. At the end of the month, your 40,000 will be there. You take your 20,000 off, which you must pay your creditors, and your other 20,000 rand, including your salary, will be in there. If you see that you won't be able to make that 40,000, you must either cut your expenses, and if you cannot cut your expenses, there's three ways in to make your revenue. If you want to make your net profit, you can either say, I must put more markup on my material, or I must cut my expenses. Then you put those figures down. Then you know then you are sure where you at. So when you run in trouble and the figures show red and you have planned for red figures, in other words, negative figures, then it's not bad because you have planned for it. So it's very important. I said you must plan to how a marketing campaign, how to get new customers, how to retain customers, and in the future also to get more customers. I said you must plan your spiritual side, put God in your business, put a plan in place, and then I also said plan for processes. Every department, even if it's a one-pager, just write down, this is how I'm going to deal with this is how I'm going to deal with that, this is how I'm going to deal with it. Especially when you have people, even if there's one person or two people in your company, put it down, because the day that you run in trouble and people are unhappy or things doesn't work, you say, and disciplinary needs to be done, you say, let's look at the process. What did the process say? No emotions? Did you follow the process? Yes. Then what went wrong? You didn't follow the process. Warning, or I talk to you and I say, what do you don't understand of the process? But you have to put plans in business. Do not rush in your business. Do not rush to start it. You're excited. You just go into it. You're going to make a big mistake, because you're going to see there's a lot of things that you didn't think of, and it's going to rock up, and you won't be able to deal with those things. So don't also, when you get a contract and it's a 100,000 rand contract, now you work out, no, that will make me live. No, think about it. How long is the contract going to take? If the contract is going to be a 3-month contract, in other words, you're going to get 30,000 rand a month of that contract. Are you able to pay yourself a salary? Are you able to pay your customers, your people that work for you a salary? Are you be able to pay rent? Don't get excited about big projects. If you didn't plan the cost of that project, 1 million rand even means nothing. You can fill in 1 million rand tender and still run a loss if you didn't plan properly. If you didn't work out the cost. 10 million means nothing. If your cost comes to 9.7 million and you only make 300,000 out of that 10 million, what's the effort that you've put in? So don't get excited about revenue figures and contracts. Work out the cost, plan for it. Work out the detail to say, is it really worth it? Many people, they lost their houses because of big contracts, because they didn't plan properly. They thought they've won this big tender, and they ran up creditors. Creditors came for their money. They didn't have it. Their houses were possessed. You have to plan for these things. Failing to plan is planning to fail, and it's true. Failing to plan is planning to fail. I'm going to read you that scripture again in Luke 14:28. Jesus says, what man will build a house and it doesn't work out the cost? It's a foolish person. Many of us will leave our jobs to go start new businesses, but we didn't plan properly. We didn't put anything on paper. We didn't put our forecast on paper. We didn't put our revenue on paper. We didn't calculate actually how much it's going to cost to run this business. We didn't calculate how much cash we're going to need really to start the business. How much do we need to buy the equipment? How much we need to pay yourself, and I'm emphasizing on paying yourself a salary, because this is a mistake a lot of people do when they start a business. They don't put in, because if you don't have a big saving in the bank account that the business doesn't need to give you a salary, you have to plan. Because your wife, your children is going to not be happy when you work hard every month, you come late, but they don't have food on the table. So I hope that you understand the 4 things that you must plan for. It's your financials, you must plan for that. You must plan for your customers. You must plan for your spiritual side of the business. And you must plan for processes in your business. Those 4 things are very important. And God bless you. And as I said, failing to plan is planning to fail. I hope that whatever you start, don't rush into it. There's nothing so important that it must be done tomorrow. Take your time rather, and don't. I'm speaking of experience. I've rushed in many business deals and I've burnt my fingers. Calculate, do due diligence. Take your time. Pray about it. Ask advice. Ask friends. Do you think? And don't be. And we all like this. If you come up with an idea and your friends start to ask you certain questions, you get uneasy and you get upset with them, because it's almost like many times they're not jealous. They're not jealous. They're asking the right questions, and you must go back and plan to give an answer to the questions that many people has put on the table. Because we all want to be positive. We put the most lucrative figures down. We plan that we're going to make from day 1 50,000, first month, next month 100, 500. This is our figures, and we just make mistakes. So I want to encourage you. I want to give you those 3 quotes. A goal without a plan is just a wish. An hour of planning can save you 10 hours of doing. Failing to plan is planning to fail. And Jesus said, a man who doesn't calculate his cost first is not a wise man. Thank you very much. God bless you. I'll see you next week again. Amen.